Namo Narayana, Om 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 Namo Narayana. Sannyasis in India, when they meet one another, traditionally say Om Namo Narayana. I bow to God in all. I bow to Him in other people. I bow to Him in you. God is in all. And remember that. He is in you. Don't say, ha ha, don't tell me jokes. I'm so far from Him. He is. He may be buried. But gold could be buried under much mud and still it would be gold. Let me read to you. Well, no, I'm going to do something else. The last time I was beginning to tell you a story and I discovered that time had run out. And that was only yesterday. So let me repeat that story. It's a bit long. But after that operation which I had in America on my hip to give me a new hip, I was 6 months later in Hawaii, and I was resting there with a couple of friends of mine. And the day they left, I was to leave in a couple of days, but the day they left, I was, wait a minute, no, it was 2 days after they left, and I was ready to go to the airport, and I was doing Mahamudra, which is one of the asanas associated with Kriya Yoga. And I was pulling on my foot, but it was so recent, only 6 months from that operation, and they had to cut all the muscles. As a result, my hip went out. It's a rather painful experience, and I could manage to get to the bed before I collapsed on the bed and my hip froze up and I couldn't move. And I called for assistance from the hotel. They came to the door, but they said, the chain is on your door. And they said, please come and open it. I said, I can't move. You're going to have to do something. So about a half an hour later, they came back with a saw or whatever and cut that chain and came in. And then they took me to the hospital, and I was being operated upon, and they had to give me morphine, but for some reason it turned out I was allergic to that morphine. And on the way home, I was vomiting all my insides, it seemed. And that vomiting went on for 24 hours, even after there was nothing left in my stomach to vomit up. There was just a convulsion. So that finally, I went to the sink and a lot of blood came out. The whole sink was full of blood. And again, I had to call for the hotel. Well, I didn't have that chain on then. I had learned my lesson. But I said, I need help. I can't move. I was too weak. And the doctor of the hotel, he should not have been this way. He said I had to come and see him. I said, I'm not able to move. All he said was, the clock's running. I said, I don't need doctors like that. The hotel doesn't need doctors like that. I had them call the hospital again. They brought another stretcher to take me to the hospital all over again. Well, in a way, it was rather nice because I felt very important. They had this siren going. The hospital, it was on the big island in Hawaii. It was a whole hour's drive, and I felt very important going through all those lights. But the first day, I had been able to talk philosophy with the interns, and it was okay, despite the pain. But this time I was so weak. I know that I got to the hospital and the doctor was summoned, and he asked me, I don't know what caused him to ask such a question at such a time. They found that I had lost again half my blood. Out of 14 normal, it was 17. And out of 14 normal, it was 7. And he asked me, I don't know how he knew that I was a Swami. Wasn't staying there in my capacity of a Swami. And he said, well, what's a Swami? I said, please, ask me these questions after I've gotten my strength back. I really can't think of anything right now. I was just almost unconscious. And later, when they put blood into me, I didn't like taking other people's blood, but you have no choice. When you have no choice, you got to do it. And he said I would have to stay in that hospital for 2 more weeks. He insisted on it. I thought, I don't like this idea. I want to go home. I was supposed to leave. And so I called my friend, doctor, on the mainland in America, and he flew over to be with me. And the nurse herself told me, you don't have to listen to the doctor. If you feel well, go out. And so I did feel well. So with this doctor friend of mine, I was allowed to go out under my own reconnaissance. The doctor there was not happy with me, but I went out and had a great Italian meal that night. What a fool. Anyway, it was good. I enjoyed it, and I left for the mainland the next day, and I was fine. But I think that God came to my rescue in both of these times when I lost all my blood. I should not have recuperated so quickly, but he's always been with me. Twice after that, in that same year, one time was up in the mountains of Switzerland, and was it Switzerland? It was Norway. I was on a train there, and it was in the mountains. It was a very narrow gauge train. I was far from assistance. It was up high in the mountains, and I started to reach down to pick up something that had fallen off my camera, and I could feel that movement. By then I had experience and I knew, so immediately I said, uh-oh. And another time also it did go out because I didn't know better. And well, it was a good experience because I was taking a photograph, and it was a beautiful photograph anyway. But I had to stoop down in a position that was not natural to get the right angle on those tulips. And my hip popped out again. Again, I had to be taken to the hospital. And again, the interns and I had a nice philosophical discussion. But yes, it's painful. Still, God always takes care of you. And this is the point that I want to mention. And I want to tell you one other story, which is very sweet, that I used to live in Switzerland. I went to school in Switzerland, and I came to love Swiss chocolate. Well, my father, after Egypt, was transferred to Paris, and he discovered, he was an oil geologist, and he discovered a large find there, and he got the Legion of Honor for it, and so on. But I used to think, well, they live near Switzerland. It would be nice if they would send me some Swiss chocolate, just in memory of the past. And then my birthday came around. It was only a few days before my birthday, and because it was such a slight desire, when I wrote to them, I never even thought of it. And just then, a few days before my birthday, I thought, oh dear, my birthday's coming. Divine Mother, it would have been nice to have Swiss chocolates. We could have enjoyed it together. And it was too late, so I didn't say anything. Then, the day before my birthday, she sent me a letter with a little package. She said that I was in a shop recently. It was in Los Angeles, and I didn't know that this could be done in America. She said, I saw some Swiss chocolates, and I thought of you, and so I sent these to you. It was so sweet. You know, when your life is threatened, you sort of expect God to take care of you if He's got to squeeze a little more work out of you. But this was such a trivial thing. A little desire which I had shared with her. that I wanted, that I was sorry I hadn't gotten Swiss chocolates. And this woman who didn't know it was my birthday, didn't know I liked Swiss chocolates, the day before my birthday sent me a box of them. I was so touched at this, I shared them with others. I had very little of them myself. It wasn't that I had a desire for them. I liked them, that's about it. But you will see that when God comes to you in such simple and you might say trivial ways, it's in a way all the sweeter. The love that God has with his devotees, I have seen it again and again. My guru told a story. He used to enjoy, again, these were things that he did to keep himself in the body. He didn't think much about it. There was this place on the way down to Encinitas from Los Angeles where he enjoyed stopping. It was a Scottish tea house, and they made very good Scottish shortbread. And so he enjoyed it. And they stopped there one day on their way down, and the woman, the disciple who went inside, came back and said, well, the woman says she sold them all. And he wasn't disappointed, but he was surprised because Divine Mother never let him down even in little things. So just in that moment of surprise, he sort of looked up at Divine Mother, how come? At that moment, he saw a light shining, shaft of light down onto that building. And a moment later, before he could leave, this woman came out, wait. She said, I have some shortbread. Or it was an order for a customer, but I can make him some more. I want you to have this. And he used to tell that story with the same motive that I told this chocolate story, that God is so sweet that he takes care of you even in little ways if you share everything with him. He has to be a part of your consciousness. Master didn't say, oh, I didn't get my shortbread. He wouldn't have done it anyway because it was, you might say, a desireless desire. He couldn't have cared less, really. But when he said to Divine Mother, how come? All of a sudden, that shaft of light and that lady came out. And so some people, being jnanis and sort of cynical and not having enough devotion to understand these things, well, if Divine Mother had to do it for him and he was master, how can he say he's one with God? Don't think that way. It isn't like that. A devotee understands, like a song that my guru used to sing, devotee knows how sweet you are. He knows whom you let know. Tumi janao, she janno, she janne, tumi janao, he will know. Tumi janao jare she janne. A Bengali song of Rabindranath Tagore's, which Mary Master translated. He knows whom you let know how sweet he is. And so you will see that in your life, if you share with God, it's so much sweeter. Master says when you reach that state of oneness with God, many times saints and masters will come down to a human level just so they can keep on enjoying that I and thou relationship. They don't have to, but it's a sweetness that they love to enjoy through their lifetime and through many lifetimes. They don't have to. But what brings them back is their desire to help other people. This point worries me a little bit because I have an intense desire to help people, and I have an intense desire for moksha, which will win out. Will I have moksha? Okay, I don't know. I just don't know. But in his case, he had moksha and he was able to help other people too. When you see that you have suffered so much, I think people desire to help people according to the ways in which they have suffered. Like, I think that doctors want to help people physically because they have suffered physically in the past. Psychiatrists want to help people mentally because they have suffered mental unbalance and ill health in the past, and some of them, I admit, don't seem to have completely overcome it. But since my suffering has been spiritual, this is what I feel for people. I feel such a longing for them to know who they really are. That's why my guru made me teach. I didn't want to, but he told me you have to. And as I've come to understand, it's a way to serve God in people. That's all it is to me. If I can awaken that God in you. And so, this saying here, which is very brief and very different from what I've been talking about, but I'll read it to you anyway. It is 181. The Master, soon after my arrival at Mount Washington, was planning to send Harvey Allen, a brother monk, to India. Harvey went later to visit his parents, and by the time he returned, he'd, quote, caught the bug of delusion, losing his attunement with our way of life and with the Guru. Not long afterward, he returned to the world. The Master said to me, after Harvey returned here, I passed him one day as he was working in the garden. As I went by, I felt a hot wave coming from him and said to him, things aren't going so well, are they? He didn't answer. I knew then that our way of life was no longer for him. And in another story, this is in 182, 2 young men applied for resident discipleship. They had had printing experience, and we were all glad to see their interest in living with us, for the print shop was in need of workers. Those 2 men, however, left for, as they put it, just a few days, never to return. Afterward, the Master commented, I knew as soon as I met them that they were not suited to our way of life. I felt a hot wave coming from them, and knew that from that feeling that they belonged in the world. Strange statement, strange experience, but you know, when you have desires, it's a friction in the nerves. Part of the energy is trying to turn inward, part of it is pushing outward, and where there is friction, there is heat. And so when people have worldly desires, especially sexual desires, there's a big pull in 2 directions. And people who are like that, you can feel heat coming from them. I remember another time in the desert, and I may be stuck with reading this one to you next time. I hope not, but I'll tell it now anyway. I and Boone were walking with Master around the desert compound, and Boone happened to be closer to him, so Master, who needed a little help walking, put his hand on his arm, and after a few moments he said, hot. And he asked him to move and took my arm. Hot, but Boone was then going through delusions. Remember that what you are is something that is in your aura. You emanate those rays. There are people you shouldn't be around because they emanate delusion and delusive thoughts. That is why the scriptures say satsang is so important. Ask yourself in this life, what is it all for? There's only one purpose, not to just be alone in this world, but to be alone with God, and to know that wherever you go, His love is always there. He will always take care of you. But this song which I wrote, called What Is It For?, is with this thought in mind. Joy to you.
What is it for? Walking alone, alone. What is it for? Walking alone, walking alone. Must our paths ever be like the winds on the sea? Oh, walking alone. What is it for? Singing alone, alone. What is it for? Singing alone, singing alone. Must our songs ever be like the winds on the sea? Oh, singing alone. What is it for? Laughing alone, alone. What is it for? Laughing alone, laughing alone. Must our joys ever be like the winds on the sea? Oh, laughing alone. is it for? Living alone, alone. What is it for? Living alone, living alone. Must our lives ever be like the winds on the sea? Oh,